A lost dog strays into a jungle. A lion sees this from a distance and says with caution, "This guy looks edible. Never seen his kind before." So the lion starts rushing towards the dog with menace. The dog notices and starts to panic, but as he's about to run, he sees some bones next to him and gets an idea and says loudly, that was some good lion meat." The lion abruptly stops and says, "Whoa, this guy seems tougher than he looks. I better leave while I can." Over by the treetop, a monkey witnessed everything. Evidently, the monkey realizes he can benefit from this situation by telling the lion and getting something in return. So the monkey proceeds to tell the lion what really happened, and the lion says angrily, "Get on my back! We'll get him together!" So they start rushing back to the dog. The dog sees them and realized what happened and starts to panic even more. He then gets another idea and shouts, "Where the hell is that monkey? I told him to bring me another lion an hour ago." A policeman searched me in a public toilet last night and found a small bag of Class A drugs. "It's not my fault," I said. "Every time I try flushing them down the toilet, they magically appear back in my pocket again." "Do you really expect me to believe that?" He laughed. I said, "I'll prove it to you if you want me to." "Go on then." He smiled, handing me the bag. After flushing them, he looked at me and said, "Well, show me your pocket then." "What for?" I asked. He said, "The drugs." I said, "What drugs?" 3 men are standing outside a jewelry shop looking at an expensive ring in the display window. The first man says, "That ring is perfect for Karen. I just wish I could afford it." The second man says, "I was planning on proposing to Julie soon. She'd love that ring." The third man says, "Okay, I'll make you both a deal. Whichever one of you gets to the bottom of the street first gets the ring at my expense. Deal?" The men are thrilled at the offer and both agree. The third man counts down from 3 and they both set off down the street. The third man then smashes the shop window and grabs the ring. The shop owner comes out and says, "What the hell happened?" The man points to the 2 men running down the street and says, "Them 2 bastards running down the road just robbed you." A boy and his date were parked on a back road some distance from town. Doing what boys and girls do on back roads some distance from town, when the girl stopped the boy. "I really should have mentioned this earlier, but I'm actually a hooker and I charge $20 for sex." The boy reluctantly paid her, and they did their thing. After a cigarette, the boy just sat in the driver's seat looking out the window. "Why aren't we going anywhere?" asked the girl. "Well, I should have mentioned this before, but I'm actually a taxi driver, and the fare back to town is $25. A wife decides to take her husband, Dave, to a strip club for his birthday. They arrive at the club, and the doorman says, "Hey, Dave, how you doing?" His wife is puzzled and asks if he's been to this club before. "Oh, no," says Dave. "He's on my bowling team." When they are seated, a waitress asks Dave if he'd like his usual and brings over a Budweiser. His wife is becoming increasingly uncomfortable and says, "How did she know that you drink Budweiser?" "She's in the ladies' bowling league, honey. We share lanes with them." A stripper then comes over to their table, throws her arms around Dave and says, "Hi, Davey. Want your usual table dance, big boy?" Dave's wife, now furious, grabs her purse and storms out of the club. Dave follows and spots her getting into a cab. Before she can slam the door, he jumps in beside her. He tries desperately to explain how the stripper must have mistaken him for someone else, but his wife is having none of it. She is screaming at him at the top of her lungs, calling him every name in the book. The cabbie turns his head and says, "Looks like you picked up a real bitch tonight, Dave." A captain notices a light in the distance, on a collision course with his ship. He turns on his signal lamp and sends, "Change your course 10 degrees west." The light signals back, "Change yours 10 degrees east." The captain gets a little annoyed. He signals, "I'm a U.S. Navy captain. You must change your course, sir." The light signals back, "I'm a seaman first class." "You must change your course, sir." Now the captain is mad. He signals, "I'm an aircraft carrier. I'm not changing my course." The light signals back a final message, "I'm a lighthouse. Your call." An Oriental man was sitting in a restaurant in Chinatown when a Jew suddenly came up and tipped a bowl of fried rice over his head. "That's for Pearl Harbor," said the Jew. "But I'm Chinese," cried the man. The Jew was unrepentant. "Chinese, Siamese, Japanese, you're all the same." At this, the Chinaman picked up his plate of sweet and sour chicken and threw it over the Jew. "That's for sinking the Titanic," shouted the Chinaman. "But the Titanic was sunk by an iceberg. Goldberg, Greenberg, iceberg." An alien spacecraft lands in a rice paddy in rural Japan, and out comes a silver-suited alien who floats over to an old rice farmer standing in amazement. "Human creature," the alien bellows, "we last visited your planet 100,000 of your Earth years ago. Tell us how you have evolved since then." The old man recovers himself, thinks for a moment, says, "Well, way back a long time ago, we were a crude bunch, no doubt. We'd take any old stick and walk down to the seashore looking for something to eat. When we saw something, stab out came the stick right through the fish or crab or urchin or whatever, and we'd eat it right off the stick. That is truly a primitive state and in accordance with our records, but how have you evolved?" "Oh, nowadays we use 2 sticks." Once upon a time, in a town where chaos practically had a subscription, lived 2 pint-sized troublemakers, Timmy and Tommy. If something exploded, vanished, or suddenly started singing show tunes, you could bet your last cookie those 2 were behind it. Their poor parents? Fresh out of ideas and sanity. In pure desperation, Mom took them to a local clergyman known for taming wild kids with just one look and an ahem. He decided to see them one at a time. First up was Timmy, fresh off an incident involving glitter, a garden hose, and the neighbor's poodle. The clergyman leaned in and thundered, "Where is God?" Timmy froze, even louder. "Where?" I-S-G-O-D, question mark. Now shaking, finally, with full holy volume, "Where is God?" Timmy bolted out of there like lightning, ran all the way home, and hid in the closet. His brother Tommy whispered through the door, "What happened?" Timmy's eyes went wide. "Bro, we are so busted. They lost God and they think we took him." A Japanese, a Russian, a Filipino, and an American went to test the magic swimming pool that turns the waters into any substance of your choice if you shout it out loud enough before jumping in. The Japanese threw his wooden sandals aside and ran towards the pool, shouting, "Sake!" He landed happily in 5 feet of Japanese rice wine. The Russian threw his AK-47 aside and ran to the pool, screaming, "Vodka!" as he leapt in the air. He happily swam and drank the purest Russian vodka after. The Filipino threw aside the banana he was eating and shouted, "Lambanoy!" as he somersaulted into the pool, landing in 5 feet of the best coconut wine. The American threw his iPhone aside and ran towards the pool but slipped on the banana peel before flailing into the pool, screaming, "Shit!" A blizzard hit a remote prison way up in the mountains. The faculty were all evacuated, but there was no time to save all the inmates. After the weather calmed down, the roads were snowed over and would be impassable until the thaw come springtime. Rescuers were flown in to find the inmates had all perished due to the unbearable cold. It seemed the only thing left to do was to remove the bodies to give closure to the families of those involved. It would be a great expense to clear the roads, or could the deceased prisoners be able to be flown out? When interviewed afterwards, the head coordinator was asked about the logistics of the operation. After considering all options, the choice was made to airlift the bodies after weighing the pros and cons. A fat man sees a sign on a door, "Lose 1 pound for $1." He puts $1 in the slot and enters. There is a jogging track with a beautiful naked woman wearing jogging shoes. "Better start running," she says, beckoning him. Excited, he chases her around the track for an hour. Finally, he catches her. She, rewards him. Then he steps on the scale. He lost 1 pound. As he leaves, he sees a new sign next door. "Lose 2 pounds for $2. He pays, enters. This time, there are 2 gorgeous naked women in running shoes. They say, "Better start running." He does, chasing them around the track. 2 hours later, he catches them. He is doubly rewarded. On his way out, the scale shows he lost 2 pounds. The man leaves. Sure enough, next door there is a final sign. "Lose 3 pounds for $3. By now, the fat man is exhausted and can barely walk. But he cannot resist. He pays and enters. The door slams shut behind him and locks. Alone on the running track is a 6'4" muscular male bodybuilder, naked except for running shoes. The naked athlete points down at his enormous erection, smiles at the fat man, and says, "Better start running."